Coming to you live from the shadow of the big house, it's IT4U. Tips and tricks on ITS tools, products, services, and more with your host, Gene Mackey. I'm Gene Mackey. Welcome to IT4U. These are interactive webinars brought to you by ITS. And if you're having any audio video problems during the webinar, tell us in the chat pod. If it's not on our end, we can offer a few tips. And if you're watching the YouTube caption version, look in the description for links to a Google Doc with some resources. If you do need an accommodation, let us know. Just give us a little bit of a heads up. And today we've got James Lengrig from ITS on digital signs intro.
Hello, and thank you, Gene. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the ITS digital signage service. In the broad, basic sense, a digital sign is just a television with a small computer behind it that is streaming content on that TV according to a schedule that you've set. Like many other things, it's not that easy. There's a lot that are involved in that, a lot of different departments, networking, us, content manager on the customer's end, maybe someone that's making their content, their sheets, their images, whatever that happens to be. So it gets pretty involved. So we're going to go through some of the basics of how the digital signage service works, hopefully give you an idea of how that would happen if you were a digital signage content manager, and then maybe some ideas on how you might streamline that if you were managing many digital signs. The digital signage service is run through a program that's called 4Winds. Not getting it. The digital signage service is run through a program called 4Winds. You're going to remote into that through remote desktop. That's on most computers by default. You may need to contact your IT organization if it's not there. That's going to look like, once you're in, it'll look like this. This is what 4Winds looks like. There's a lot of buttons here. I usually compare it to Photoshop. If you just want to make a basic sign, you can ignore most of this and just leave it alone. Up here we have, on the upper left-hand side, we have the digital signage network tree. As a content manager, you wouldn't see most of that. You'd just see your particular sign, but as the administrator, I see everybody's sign. So we're going to pretend that we're just the IT4U people for now. And these are our two signs that we're going to set up. You set up a sign, and there are three pieces to a sign. There is the player, where you set up specific settings for that particular player. Then there is the template, which is, think of it as a bunch of frames, a bunch of boxes that you've arranged on a wall and said, that's where I want the picture of my mother-in-law, this is a picture of my kids, this is this, or whatever that happens to be. I need to stop talking with my hands. Then there's the content pieces. These can be anything from photos to Excel sheets, documents, text. They can be images. They can be videos. They can be a RSS feed from the University News Service, and they are running across the screen in wherever you put them. So running through our sign here real quick that we're going to demo, we have a live data field here that is going to schedule some images. We have some blank areas that form gutters and barriers of our sign. We have a news feed that is going across the bottom. We have some weather. We have a logo that is I believe it's the Campus Computing Sites logo. And then we have time. This is not going to be a perfect sign because we're going to go through some of the troubleshooting, but you'll get an idea of what it looks like. So on the right side, as I hit play, it's going to load up a preview, and we see pictures of my hometown of Austin. And it's going to cycle through those. On the right, we have our weather. On the bottom, we have a newsfeed from the university that's running across, and then up above, we have the logo. That's set up is largely drag and drop. You're just dropping things into these frames, but you have to create those to begin with, and that's up to the content manager. If you ever become a signage customer, or you are one, that's up to you to manage. We'll help you with technical troubleshooting, that kind of thing. And we'll help you with guides on how to do it, but that's up to you to manage and put together what you want. We try to make that easier for you. The way we do that is through apps and training. So this, we're going to go through real quick, is a digital sign with an app. And if I double click on it, All it does is go to a spreadsheet and say, this is my spreadsheet. It has lists of images on it, and this is where you can find those images. Play those in this duration. You can find the apps by going, let's make a sign with a new app. So we're going to go new content player. This is a new sign we're doing. And I go into my apps section down here. This is where your content lives. This is where your templates live. And this is where your apps live. Apps are created by ITS. You go into here, you can go into university. Don't use things from Michigan Medicine. If you're in the university, they won't work for you. The same goes for Michigan Medicine. You try to use things from the university, they won't work for you. Two different networks. We're going to go into full signs, ITS, and the images plug and play, and we drag and drop it onto our computer, and it will ask us to fill out those criteria. The full details on what criteria are required, what entry fields are required, are on our website, which is going to be linked by Gene at the end of this. There's largely it's just asking you for information. Where do you keep your files? What is the spreadsheet's particular hex key to it? Which tab on that sheet are you telling me to look at? And then it will do the rest. What it's looking for is, I'm going to shrink this. This is a basic Google Sheet setup. There's an excellent video by Mandy that is on our website that you can look at. It was done as an IT4U. So thank you for that, Gene. What you're looking at here is on the left-hand side, I've highlighted areas where I've made errors. There's a list of images. It's important that you keep the extension, whether that's a JPEG, PNG, bitmap. We recommend JPEG or PNG. A description, you don't really need that, but if somebody else comes along later and wants to know what you're showing, that might be helpful to them. The day you want that image to start and the day you want that image to stop playing. And then there is the URL. This isn't needed, but it's helpful. This is the full path that the sign takes to go to your image. I said before that the digital signs is a player that is behind a television. It is a whole separate computer. Your computer that you're working on is a whole separate computer, and then the remote server that you are connecting to is a whole separate computer. Because of that, they don't really all have the same S drive, C drive, whatever it happens to be. If you tell it to go to look for this photo in the S drive, it doesn't know what that means. It would be like me telling Gene, please go to the kitchen and get a sifter out of the left cabinet. Gene,
where?
Yeah, Gene would go to her left cabinet and go, that's not what's in here. What's in here are cups, and she won't be able to get it. So you use this long path. It's called a UNC path, and it will be the full network path of where you can find this in the world. There are a couple errors on here. First, there's this one where I didn't put the JPEG. It won't work. And then this one, there's actually stopping in 2017, which is before the 2018 date. It won't be able to do that. Those are just common errors that we see a lot. You just fix those dates and it will work again. The trouble of working on a Windows machine that is remoted into a Windows machine. Never sure which Windows machine I'm in. All right, so that's the basics of what a spreadsheet looks like. Easy to set up, it's in Google, you'll share it. Steps are in our website. If you wanted to set it up yourself, you'd set that spreadsheet up according to the video for IT4U. And then you go through here and you drag these content pieces up. So we've got our content pieces in here for the IT4U. You see our weather one, our time, our logo, news feed, and live data. We're going to go into the time feed just to show an example of what your day-to-day work would be in here and how that's done, how you arrange this. This is the time. You can go through here and this will say how long this is going to play and what the resolution is. Are you talking about time down to the second? Are you talking down time to the minute? Are you talking down time to the hour? Name of it, like if I wanted to call this time instead of IT4U time, or if I wanted to call it, maybe I'm just doing month. I don't know why you would have a sign that this tells people what the month is, but sure, you can do that. So let's call it IT4U time. It is important to name it descriptively. If you ever call us for help and say, I'm having trouble with my time and you have 15 time things in there, probably more like photos, and just say, it's photo of Bob. We'll ask you which one it is. We won't be able to tell. Once you want to arrange it, you're going to go into here and say, I want to edit source content layout. You'll notice I'm right-clicking. As a customer of digital signage, because you want to have access to everything, you generally want to right-click on the thing you want to change and then choose the option. If you choose these larger options up at the top or up on the left, it's going to try to do things in the root directory that you won't have access to. I'll see whatever you're trying to do, and I will try to return that object to you or make the changes that you've been trying to make. But I may not be able to tell. Again, if you've just labeled the picture, I won't know whose picture that is and where it belongs. Any questions? Okay, let's continue. So we're going to take this a little bit slower because we're going to be actually working in here. This is our layout for the time. Again, I got here by right-clicking on this, edit source content layout, because I'm editing the layout of this object. This, you might be able to see in the recording. It's hard to see in live. There is a little white dashed box that represents the box I have to work in. There's this larger gray box here that doesn't really represent anything other than the box size that I've happened to make this window. Then in here, I need to drag the things I want to add to this particular layout. We're doing time, so let's drag down a date and time object. Here are the things up at the top that I can drag down. Static text is just text. Markup text is coding. Built-in are some built-in functions for the sign software that you can use to make it change, to make it pan if somebody touches it. Quick index is, again, something that's, do you ever see those sliders with A, B, C, D, E, F, G? That's what that is. We're going to drag down date and time. I get this little field that has today's date. And then I want to resize this and go, I want this date to be this big. This is all manually done. And you resize it. I've got a pretty big field here with a very tiny little date. So I want to change that. To change that, I can click on this black arrow on the top, go to font, and I get the normal kind of default Windows font selector. I'm going to go ahead and say that I want something that's about size 28. I'm going to stick with Arial, that's nice and legible, and I'm going to go with bold. And we now have a much bigger time frame. But maybe I don't want 9/20/2018, or I actually want the time and not the date. So I can go in here and I can go to formatting. Again, I'm clicking the little black arrow in the top right-hand corner, going to formatting, and you'll see just this one. That's not all there is. If you click on it, you'll get a whole list of things that you can select. Every time and date selection you might want to use. So I'm going to say that I just want to do, I don't want to do just the year. Hopefully people looking at my sign know the year. We're going to do just September 20th. That's all this is going to say. And then, oh, I made it too small. Problems with working with this, so let's delete that. Delete. Because I made it too big for the box, I can't actually resize it anymore. So again, because I'm editing this manually, there are some finicky areas to this software. So let's make it about a half size. And we're going to quickly go back in here. We're going to change our font. We're going to go to a size 18, Arial bold, not condensed bold. Well, sure, why not? And then we're going to go back in here into clicking the arrow, formatting, arrow, formatting, click. Sure, September 20, 2018. Now I've got the date. I want the time. I'm going to drag another one down here and I get the same setup. I'm not going to go through the formatting again in the interest of time, but we'll click on this and we'll change it to date, formatting. And let's select a time frame. These can be tricky if you're doing them in the morning because military time is an option. So you may want to come back and check your work and make sure that you didn't select military time, specifically if you didn't select something that said AM at the end of the time. So let's select 9:15 AM. And we'll click OK. and our changes are saved, but they are not live on the sign yet. I don't know if you can see this in my head blocking it. So there's our time now. Now it's showing September 20th, 2019, 9:15. You'll notice that it's kind of crammed up against the logo. Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want to change that. So I can go in here and I can change this layout. This is the box that is holding all those frames that are saying this is where time goes, this is where the logo goes. So I want to give a little bit of spacing to that time frame from the logo. I don't want to crowd the site's logo. I'm going to go in here and edit source layout. Edit source template, sorry, because I'm editing a template. Are you sure that you want to change this? It's on a sign. They're just telling you somebody is using this, in this case me. Do you want to change what they're doing? Yes. And then this is our layout, our boxes that we're arranging things. And you can see, yes, the date is crammed right up against the branding. So let's give that a little bit of space by just clicking on this box here. The arrow will change into that you're resizing me arrow. So we'll give it a little bit of space. Then we have the early computer 1990s 3.5 floppy to save and close. Make sure to click on that. Don't just close. It's not Google and it will not be friendly and it will not save your changes for you. So we've saved, we now have a little bit of space. The other thing you need to know with digital signs is something that comes up a lot. Digital signs are live, they're in front of customers. They want to give you the opportunity to change and arrange a sign behind the scenes so that you can arrange anything that you want. You can toy with maybe 10 different versions of a sign and then show it to your supervisor and say, which of these 10 signs do you want to be live? So when you're saving things, you're not making them live to the display. To do that, you want to hit deploy. We're going to save our changes here because I like what I've done. I've given it some space. File save. It takes a while because it has to save to the whole database. Incidentally, while we're talking about saving, if you have two content managers in your group and you both open up the sign to look at it together on two different computers, when you try to save the changes, it will ask you if you want to override the other person's change. We highly recommend that if you have more than one content manager, you come up with a system that says, this is when I work on it, or letting people know I'm going to be working on the digital sign. Please don't go in there and open it up so that you don't end up fighting with each other over the changes on the sign. I do not really want to arbitrate that discussion and say, this guy's right, this guy's wrong. So we've saved our changes. If I wanted to make this live, I can. I have assigned a computer name. If you're using the ITS service, the computer name is its actual device name. It's going to be m-something. The computer name will be given to you by ITS Digital Signage when you sign on. If you're with the medical field, if you're working with sign in the hospital, it's usually done by the IP address. Once you've got that name, you want to say, a different computer is my, it'll start off here. This computer is my signage player. You want to select a different computer as my signage player, and then you insert the computer name, and it is ready to go. And you can right-click on here, hit deploy. And again, you'll get the save changes. Hopefully it turns green at the top. There are some common errors with this. I've added it to the document that we've shared with Jean that she'll be sharing out with the links in the YouTube video. They're also documented on our website. If it turns green, says all deployments were successful, you're good to go. Sign is up and live. You can go take a look at it. If anything is wrong, please let us know. We'll do our best to help. This is changing the sign in my office right now. So any questions about the basic digital sign? All right. Ask away. Jean can always interrupt me. So let's talk about some things you might want to do if you are managing a lot of digital signs. Let's say you've got 10 throughout several buildings and you want to make some changes to make that easier on your life. This is our basic spreadsheet. Now let's unhide these columns that I've hid, if I can remember how to unhide columns. Oh, because I got to log in and sign in. Yeah, it's going to make me do that. It's not going to like that because my name is not capitalized. Okay, now I can change. Awesome. Still loading. See, IT guy forgets how to unhide the columns. There we go. Okay. So we've got some additional filters that you might want to use. You can, let's say that you have a bunch of images and some of them are pretty simple and some of them are more informative. They have time and dates for an event and you want to be able to say, this image just says the cafe is open, only needs 5 seconds. This image that says, during Friday, we will be hosting a talk and they will be talking about X, Y, and Z topics. Please be sure to sign up. You probably want to give them more than 5 seconds to jot down whatever information there. You can do that by adding a duration column and adding 00 colon 00 colon seconds. It's hours, minutes, and seconds. You can hook that up through your live data feed to say you're going to use a specific duration on the sheet rather than a duration that we've preset for everything. You might want images that only show on Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Wednesday, some that only show on the weekend. You can add filters to your live data, say, you're going to look at this field called day, and if any of those days in there match this, show this. So that way it would say on the current day, you're going to go down the sheet and say, on Monday, I want you to show this one that says time-lapse picture of Boston, then a picture of the postcard, and then South by Southwest, Draft House, but I don't want you to show this sunset one. Don't show that unless it's Friday. Of course, on Friday, it would only show these 3. You could also tell it that you want to define locations and say, I have ASB, the Union, Arbor Lakes, and some information is appropriate for ASB, some is appropriate for Arbor Lakes. By adding this location field, you can do the same thing. Let's go to the digital sign. I'll show you how those filters work. So we're going to use our live one. This is not an option for the plug and play one. The plug and play is simple. It's to be there for everyone to use. You can go into here and you can go into the live data object that you've created, following Andy's excellent video, and then go to edit source content layout. In this top corner, you'll see this button that says filters. Normally, you're going to set up one that says start date and stop date. That's just this stop, play, and start. But if I wanted to add one that says location, I can drag from this field up here at the top over and add it, and it'll say location is value. If you click on the is, it'll give you a couple options, like you want to say change date and time. We don't want to do that here. What we want to do here is say location is machine variable, and we're going to say machine variable is location. And now it's looking at the specific sign and saying, where are you in the world? I need to know what content you get. We're going to click OK to save that. And then we're going to go to this sign here that we've got, and we're going to say that this sign needs a variable that says location. And this one is in ASB. And that's all that's needed. Now we've got a sign that will only pull the ASB images. If I wanted to duplicate this exact sign and then say, I only want you to pull the Arbor Lakes videos, I can right click on it, duplicate, I get a copy, probably want to change the name so it's not ASB. Now it's Arbor Lakes. Preferably you'd add a room number so if I ever have to go find the sign, I'm not wandering around the entirety of Arbor Lakes going, where's the sign? Then we want to go in here and we want to change the variables. It'll still have it because it's a copy, and we want to change this one, say that it's in Arbor Lakes. And now it will only pull the Arbor Lakes images. So there's a number of other clever ways you can use things like that. Some of the things you might want to do are consider using a Google form. Maybe you want people to submit the images via a form to you, populate that Google sheet, and then the Google sheet populates the sign. If that's the case, one of the things you might consider doing, I'm going to keep clicking on that, is adding another filter here that says approved, and say that you're going to set the sign to say that if there's ever an X in the approved column, then that sign is good to go. But if no one has come through here and taken a look at the image that someone added via form to the sheet, that it won't go live. That way someone can't just drop an image that you think is not appropriate for your audience on your sign, but people can easily add content to it. Any other questions? Any questions? Questions? Okay, so we're going to cover one other quick topic. How am I doing for time?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Okay, so we'll cover a couple other things. I showed you this app that we've got here, and I used it as a full sign. It doesn't have to be used that way. We've got a couple of them here, so let's drag some signs up here. Not the print queue monitors. You probably don't want to see the print queues. Content. Let's add the Google community sign. Let's say that I want my own custom sign. I like this layout that I've got going here. I don't want to use just this. I do want to use the weather. I do want to use this RS feed, but I don't want to use this demo, which incidentally isn't working because there's an error in the Arbor Lakes one in my sheet, which was done specifically for a demo. So we're going to remove this, get rid of it, and we're going to add this guy. This is the Google Plus community. If you have content to share with digital signage customers, we offer a Google Plus community where you can post, here's my content. Someone has shared a PDF, PNG. We prefer PNG, but we understand PDFs are preferable for many people. You put it up on that sign, that Google Plus community, and they can choose to download it or not. They're not required to download it. No one is. However, there are many signs around campus, and we provide a Google community app. It's also part of our simple sign app that you can use that feeds into the Google Plus community. I go through it each week on Monday, pull down the images that people have added, and I add it to the Google Plus community. As long as it is not somehow inappropriate content, I'll put it on there. So anyone that is using that is going to get that content, and you'll get metrics from it if you use a PNG. Use a PDF, I have to convert it back to PNG. There's a peculiarity with the signs. A PDF and in fact a PowerPoint are their own slide set, even if you only have one image. And if you add a slide set within a slide set, it doesn't work, and it will just say, I don't know which of these images you wanted me to show. So I have to convert them to PDFs, or to PNGs, sorry. So let's add that community feed. We've got this app. We click on it, we drag, we drop it in there. That's all it is. It's now going to resize itself to that sign, and it sizes to the box. This box on this sign is, you might see these kind of blue letterbox things. The sign is 16 by 9, or at least that box is. If someone like the Michigan app here has provided me a 16 by 9 image, it will fill the entire box, and the sign will try to resize it. If someone has not provided me with 16 by 9, like this produce farmers market one, it's going to give the letterbox type effect. It will size up and try to make the image as big as possible, but it will not stretch it. You could do that with your own sign if you wanted to. We don't usually recommend it. Another thing to think about when you're thinking of sign content and someone's saying, I've got an image, can you put it on my sign? Can you slap it up there? Is resolution. 16 by 9 is just a ratio. You can have any resolution. Anything that's about up to 2K is pretty good for a sign. If you go up to 4 to 6K, we've had some people that give us 8K images. They start being calculated in megabytes instead of kilobytes. And then the sign that is trying to go get that image live and download it and stick it on its schedule is not going to be able to download it and figure out and resize it within the 4 seconds that it's supposed to be up. So it'll just skip it, and you'll end up with dead air. So that's something to keep in mind. Try to keep your image sizes under 2K. We recommend 16 by 9 because that's generally what the ratio on televisions are currently. Of course, if you do something like this, it's just going to get letterbox. Other things that you might want to consider with digital signage. Which news feed you use. We've got this RSS feed down here from the University of Michigan. There are others that you can use, but be very careful of what you choose to do. Some of them have licensing restrictions. CNN will let you use, or at least 6 months ago. I haven't checked within 6 months ago, so reasons to check. They'll let you use their RSS feed, but you have to put the CNN logo before. Not hard, but if you don't, and someone from CNN happens to be going through the movie, through the university, they could ping you for it and say, hey, you're not allowed to be doing that. Please take that down. Other things to consider when you're dealing with digital signs. The most troubleshooting ends up for us being a network and access issue. We will provide you with storage. You are welcome to use it. In fact, encouraged to use it, because some of the apps are rigged in such a way, are programmed in such a way that they expect you to use it. They will allow options for you not to do that. Let's take a look at our images plug and play. This says digital signage storage, and all it wants to know is what we call you. In this case, it's DI. If my unit was sites, I just type that, and it will work. If your image is housing, it's not actually housing, it's HSG. And that will just work. If you use your own, you can do that. You'd want to switch to, not DFI, come on, there we go. You'd want to switch this to unit provided storage, and then down here where it says what is the UNC path of your drive storage, you'd want to include this full drive path down here. In this case, this is the full drive path to the storage that digital signage provides you when you become a customer. All right, other things that you may want to do. This left field, I usually get rid of it, recommend customers get rid of it, because again, this is going to try to make things out here in the wide world of everybody's that you can't see, but I can see, and sometimes they end up down here. This won't work. Oh, I actually have to type an image file. Fix this. And that's now out in the open. Nobody's going to be able to see that but me. So that's not useful to you. So because of this, we usually recommend that you close this down. Another thing we usually recommend is picking up this window, this bar section here. You'll notice it kind of moves around. It's probably flashing on your screen. I'm not causing anyone any trouble. You can move it over there and kind of resize it so that you can customize your work area and drag things from the left to the right, especially if you've got a gigantic sign network like our friends over in housing that might have some trouble dragging things from the bottom up top because the window doesn't scroll. Other tricks that you might want to consider doing. If you're adding content to here like this, like my Google Plus community feed, you can add multiple apps if you really want to. We've got a couple other ones that you are free to use. Master paintings, I like that because my background is actually an illustrator, and that might not actually be scheduled. Yeah. It's got to load this. These are 4K images that I downloaded from. They are all common domain art, usually American illustrators. There's also the NASA image of the day that you can drag on here. I'm going to remove one of these because they're not going to work together. You can't play them together. You can add multiples, but you cannot add the same one together. NASA image day, first day, and that'll just play NASA's image of the day. So you could add your own, and then one of these. What you can't do is add multiples of these apps together. I think I got this one working. This is the night sky. See, that one's still working. This used to be an astrology video that showed, yeah, there we go. Just what the night sky will look like this month. It just plays. Somebody in the Science Learning Center asked if that was a possibility, and we thought it was kind of interesting. So I made an app out of it. Other things you might want to know. Do we have any questions? And how am I doing on time?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Okay. So let's cover some of the basic troubleshooting things that might go on with the digital sign. You might get, when I deploy this sign, it's going to ask me to save all these changes because I've been moving a lot of stuff around. I wonder if I can somehow force it to error. I don't know how I would do that. I don't know how to purposely break something. The database is very slow. When you're saving, hopefully it'll do it while we're talking. Yep, there we go. You'll get this green bar. If you get a pink bar, it might say something like metadata errors and see below, and then it will not provide you any information below as to what that actual error means. It's very helpful. Usually what that means is permission issues. That can mean that you have mapped something to an S drive, or one of your other signage content managers was fiddling around and mapped something to S drive, and the digital sign is trying to tell you, I don't know where S is. That's the incident of the kitchen. Earlier we talked about sending Gene to a kitchen to get a sifter out of the wrong cabinet. It's trying to tell you it doesn't know where that is. It could also mean that you don't actually have access to that file for whatever reason that might be, saying you can't copy this the way you've set it up. Other things that you might see are that it's unable to contact network content player. That can mean that the content player is off. It could mean that the content player is off the network. It could mean that the content manager's 4Winds has crashed and it can't deploy it to that. Usually for that, we'd recommend that you contact us and say, hey, can you see if you can find out what's going on? We might contact your network department and say, hey, the sign is not off, but the firewall has changed. Please go back in and do what you can to get it back up and running. Other errors that commonly come up are dead air, the blank image. Usually this means that either the image name wasn't typed in our spreadsheet correctly, like we've got an actual example here, where Austin.2, Austin02 without an extension, it doesn't know what to look for. Do I look for a JPEG, a PNG? What are you trying to tell me here? Or something like this, where the time is off. Another popular one is scheduling the time for 10/11/22/017, and the sign will not go to the 22nd millennium. It will break, and it will actually crash your sign. So please don't put too many twos or zeros in your sign time. Other things that will come up are often the image is too big. As I said before, if it gets to be an 8K image, a lot of your advertisement departments are starting to get that, where they'll send you a PDF that they've created and it's 8K and it needs to be sized down. That will also cause blank dead air. It will also cause your sign to crash, and you will just see not only the blank screen there, you'll see lots and lots of blank screens. There's a full list of errors that we've given on our website, and I've added a couple to the document that Gene's going to share with us. If there's no more questions, thank you very much for your time. I hope that was of use.
All right. Thank you very much, James. Let's see. How do I get back to... There we go. So I don't have polls, but if you have any feedback, just put them right in the chat pod there. We will send out a captioned recording of what James just did with lots of great information. And what's coming up next month is about Google Team Drive, so stay tuned for that. And I think that's basically it. Thank you so much.